Hello?
All right, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Tuesday, December 11, 2018. Black women are the true base of the Democratic Party. We have the results of a special midterm exit poll of black women, how they voted in 2018, and what happened in Florida that could have contributed to the loss of Andrew Gillum, a lesson for Democrats who don't support school choice. With prodding from the White House, a lot of prodding, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell actually is bringing up the criminal justice reform bill after he got his butt kicked by everybody with all of his excuses saying there wasn't enough time. We'll talk with Hillary Shelton of the NAACP and also Tafika Sam, the Ladies of Hope Ministries, about this potential vote. The reality star president of the United States, Donald Trump, got owned by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the Oval Office today. Wait until you see the video. Also, John Kelly is out as White House Chief of Staff, but he still will not apologize, be man enough to apologize for lying about Congresswoman Frederica Wilson of Florida. Also, Republican Utah Congresswoman Mia Love leaves the House in January, and she's constantly complaining about the Republican Party's relationship to African Americans and other people of color. Why won't she come talk to black media? I got some thoughts about that. And also, we have updates on the woman whose baby was torn from her arms by the police, the man who murdered Heather Heyer in Charlottesville, as well as election fraud in the North Carolina Congressional District, and of course, the case of the Tennessee woman who had to serve 51 years for killing the man who made her a sex slave. And yes, our annual story, another crazy-ass white woman, this time a sheriff's deputy in Tennessee who wouldn't let a sister do her job as a nurse. Time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now.
fellas, for weeks, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has been saying there's not enough time to bring criminal justice reform up for a vote in the Senate. It passed the House in February. What the hell have you been doing? Donald Trump has been tweeting about it. He's been pushed by Democrats and Republicans. McConnell's even been lying by saying, oh, there are not enough votes there. Folks, there's at least 70 votes there to get this passed. Well, today, he finally tweeted out that after some changes, I'm going to call this thing up for a vote. Now, here's some key provisions in the bill. It gives judges more discretion in sentencing offenders for nonviolent crimes, particularly drug offenders. It also places federal prisoners closer to their homes. It allows inmates to request reviews of their cases under the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010. What it also does, it deals with the issue of the disparity between powder and crack cocaine, expands prison employment programs so inmates could earn wages. Now, look, this is not a perfect bill. You have folks on the Democratic side in the House who were not happy, like Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, with the version that passed the House. But this is really the best, I believe, you're going to see criminal justice reform under Republican leadership. Joining us right now is Topeka Sam, founder and executive director, Ladies of Hope Ministries. Also, Hillary Shelton, director of the NAACP Washington Bureau. Topeka, I want to start with you. Look, you served time in prison. You know what this is like. You were one of the folks who was on Capitol Hill pushing McConnell, pushing Republicans to do this. Your thoughts on him finally stop playing games and calling this up for a vote?
That's right. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Roland. I really, really appreciate it. It's time. It's time that we give some provisions and some justice to the people that, I have left behind. And we have been fighting. Yes, the First Steps Act is a first step. Yes, it can be better. It can be meatier. But, let's face it. All the criminal justice reform that has, or any kind of criminal justice bills that have come through and have been passed have been damaging. In our opinion, this will help. It may not at the very beginning stages help every single person that is inside. What it does is provides hope. It provides access to programming, so when people come home, they have opportunities to transform their life. It allows for women, specifically the work that I do and the things that I even experienced while I was inside. It allows us to have our basic human rights met, like personal hygiene products. We talk about, yes, there are places in this country that have stopped the shackling of women while during child labor, but there's no oversight and nothing is being enforced. Last week, just in New York, there was a woman who was shackled during child labor. Now there's a lawsuit that's going out, and it has passed in New York. So, our sisters and brothers, the ones that I talk to every single day, want this bill to pass. Why? Because if this doesn't pass, we don't know what will happen, right? And it is a first step. So we're excited that finally, it gets an opportunity to get a vote. And once it gets the vote, then it's time to go for a second, a third step, and then to make sure that we are holding the system accountable.
Hillary, I want to go to you again. Democrats wanted more. First off, they had actually an even better bill in the last moments of President Obama's administration. The belief among Democrats is, oh, Hillary Clinton is going to win. We can get a better bill. Well, Donald Trump won. And so this was one Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee did not support. She jammed me up when I was at the Houston Rockets playoff game against Golden State, saying it's a bad bill. And I said, well, Congresswoman, if it's such a bad bill, why did Cedric Richmond vote for it, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus? Why did Congressman Jim Clyburn vote for it? Is this the best bill you believe, Hillary, that we could get out of a Republican-controlled Congress?
No, what we're seeing is an evolution. Keeping in mind what happened in the House of Representatives, the First Step Act was only a prison reform bill and included no sentencing reform components. That is nothing at the front end, only something at the back end, and some problems even along those lines. We didn't support the bill as it moved through the House and continued to push forward, understanding that this is a process in which the House and the Senate have to respond. So as such, the House bill didn't move. We wanted to make sure it was very clear that this was not enough, and we continued to move forward. But we also knew if we get something through the Senate, we need something to conference with in the House as we think about strategy. So the bottom line was it wasn't enough, and we support the positions held by Sheila Jackson Lee. She chairs and now she will chair the House Crime Subcommittee of the Judiciary Committee. She was ranking on that committee last year. She understood exactly what it meant and exactly how the game is played. Now here's where we are now. The bill with the same name is the bill that's pending in the Senate. That's the bill that began with Chuck Grassley's bill that was not enough either. But what we were able to do is leverage between the U.S. senators as well as the White House itself. It was Kushner, as a matter of fact, in the White House that said the door is wider open than even that Grassley's pushing forward on. And thank God for the great work of both Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. They both understood.
Well, on the Senate side, but
the Senate side,
the person who was doing the heavy lifting on the House side was Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
No question. While other things were going on, we knew the bill was weak, but it was all we had. Let's keep it alive, but let's see how much we can do to grow it. That's the way this process works. In essence, we want to continue the pressure, and we did. Half of the CBC members did not support that bill, and half did. But that's okay. We played the game that way before, and we understood we're grown-ups. We see how that kind of piece of it works. We were able to get something out of it. The way things work on Capitol Hill, if you have a lesser bill in the House and a better bill in the Senate, when you come together in conference, you want to make sure you have something you can negotiate. If we said the bill in the House is all we needed, that's the best we've gotten out of the Senate. But what we have now working in the Senate is something much stronger, much more comprehensive that gets to those front-end issues of sentencing reform, those things like mandatory minimum sentences, which is a huge deal, giving more discretion to judges to actually move outside of the sentencing range that are very much there as well. We want to make sure that we have a number of things in place, including, as she mentioned, the shackling of women giving birth in our prisons. Those issues we wanted to have addressed as well. As things are set up now, we believe we're going to have much, much more if we're able to get this Senate bill through as things are even now, and we're still continuing to push for some components we hope will even strengthen it even more. In essence, the system works as long as we understand how to work the system.
Topeka, I want to go back to you again. Jared Kushner was the one who was pushing this inside the White House. His dad served time in federal prison. He knew what that was like, not being able to talk to his father, having restrictions, making phone calls. I met with him for an hour in May to get an understanding if this White House was serious about this. He was facing significant obstruction from the likes of then Attorney General Jeff Sessions. You also have, of course, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who was making lots of noise here as well. They were holding up. The sheriff's organization withdrew their support. But the reality is there are a number of other police organizations that were also supportive of this particular bill. And so can you talk about what it was like, first of all, being African American, being somebody who served time in prison, having to deal with people who are highly critical of folks like you for daring to even work with the Trump White House or work with Republicans on this particular bill?
Right. Thank you. To be honest, for me, it didn't matter. My people are what matters. It's people over politics. Right, despite how I may feel about every individual person who's in Congress from state to state, Sister Sheila Jackson Lee, I love her, I appreciate her work, but she also serves a position where she feels you should build nurseries inside of prisons. My position is that why would we do that? If a woman can be with her child, she should be able to be home with her child. So there's ways that you can have alternatives to incarceration. The problem is that, as you stated, people have not served time inside of a prison. And so they come from this expertise, yet it's not a lived expertise. The reason why this bill has been pushed so heavily is because it's been people on the ground who have been directly impacted, who has actually helped to inform what goes in this bill. And yes, it is a little bit more depth because the sentencing reform is in it. And is it enough? Absolutely not. We need to do some things, for me, which we can continue to push forward and do that will help to bring and reverse the injustices that have people serving life in prison right now. But as it states right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost like miss me with it. If you haven't lived my experience, then you can't tell me what's best for me.
Now, obviously, the vote will be taken, hopefully, barring any sort of gains from Mitch McConnell. And again, if it passes, things get resolved, and of course it goes to Trump's desk for his signature. Topeka, I want to ask you again, Topeka, what you have now is you have Republicans who are finally waking the hell up, who realize all that tough law and order crap for years, it was destroying the budgets of states. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what your motive is. If your motive is financial, that's fine with me. If you can be motive, yours can be financial, somebody else's can be moral. It doesn't matter as long as the policy gets changed to help people.
That's right. And we think about the fact that it was Democrats and Republicans that got us to this place. It's going to take Democrats and Republicans to get us out of this place. And that's the bottom line. We can point blame, we can point fingers, but everybody needs to be accountable because we are why we are here today, because nobody wanted to take up the issue boldly and in a sense of urgency in the last several years. When President Obama came in and he did the CP14, the Clemency Initiative, which was great, it still was not enough. And so now it happened the last year of the second term of his presidency. And so we need to look at what we are all doing in order to change the criminal legal system, and it is every single one of us is responsibility. 1 in 2 families in this country, with a report that just came out the other day from Forward, 1 in 2 families in this country have an incarcerated loved one. 1 in 4 women have an incarcerated loved one. This has got to stop.
Final question for you, Hillary. And that is, first of all, there are 2.3 million people who are in prison or jail in America. Only 200,000 on the federal level. So the real issues on the state level. Do you believe that when you have criminal justice reform on the federal level, it then causes states to say, hey, we should follow the Fed's lead?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we've seen that in the past. Keep in mind, when Barack Obama came into office, we had 2.4 million Americans serving time in our prisons and jails at one time. Because of a number of the initiatives coming out of the Obama administration, coming from the U.S. Congress, keeping in mind, at the time he came in 2008, the majority leader of the Senate was Harry Reid, who supported criminal justice reform as well. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi, who continues to be on the front line of supporting those in the Judiciary Committee under her leadership, trying to address these concerns as well. The bottom line is that as we're looking at things moving forward, we were able to achieve a lot of leeway to the point that we're even having contracts signed or not signed anymore between private prisons as we saw the numbers going down altogether. So we know what works. We know that the Trump administration has come in, Jeff Sessions very particularly, repealed a number of those provisions that came even as guidances from Eric Holder, our first African-American Attorney General of the United States, as he instructed his prosecuting attorneys not to include weight. There was the trigger in drug crimes that began to utilize mandatory minimum sentences. These strategies work moving forward, knowing we needed much more comprehensive changes to our overall criminal justice system.
All right, then. We certainly appreciate it, Hillary. Topeka, thanks a bunch as well. We'll wait to see when this bill gets taken up and as it moves to the United States Senate. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. We are looking forward to this getting to the floor this week. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come and address the show and your audience. And we'll be there, and we're pushing, we're praying, and this is just, again, a first step. Thank you, Roland.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, let's now talk about our second story, which we want to get to, and that is the issue of the midterm elections. Of course, you saw Democrats take about 40 seats in the U.S. House, flipping those seats. Now they control the U.S. House. Republicans expanded their lead on the Senate side, but also black voters played a huge role when it came to black voters played a huge role when it came to the issue of gubernatorial races and others as well. And so we want to deal with that right now. Of course, Melanie Campbell, the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, they actually had their exit poll of black women. Here's what the exit poll found. Black women say they voted because it is their responsibility to do so. Okay? So if you look at this chart, that's the green line, 76%. Now, 11% voted to support a ballot issue. We saw ballot issues in Florida, in Michigan, and a number of other states as well. Now, in Florida, when it came to the ballot issue, that number jumped to 45%, to the blue line right there. Now, of course, these were the issues highly important to black women. Issues like affordable health care, criminal justice, policing reform, equal rights and equal pay, hate crimes, racism, jobs, employment, and voting rights. Now, one of the areas I want to get with, talk to Melanie about, of course, what happened in Florida. Yes. A lot of people saw the initial exit polling that showed 18% of black women voting for Ron DeSantis. Now, if you study the numbers anywhere, first of all, Republicans will tell you black women hate the Republican Party more than anybody else, literally voting 92 to 94% for Democratic candidates. I can't remember the last time you actually saw a polling number where black women were supporting Republicans in double digits, definitely 18%. Remember, Andrew Gillum lost by 31,000 votes to Ron DeSantis in Florida. And so joining us right now is Melanie Campbell with the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation and the Black Women's Roundtable. So Melanie, I want to talk with Florida first. So can you explain that 18%? Because a lot of folks were like, oh my goodness, what the heck happened?
Right.
And I said, okay, you're going to be surprised when you find out what was the case there.
Well, there's the jury's still out on whether that is a good number, because talking to some of our political sciences folks, like Elsie Scott and others, that first poll that came out, about 18%, had a very, very nominal number in it when it came to black women. And there is other studies, other numbers that will come out that say that number may even be 90+%. So I'm in the camp to say I want to see a little more depth in those numbers as the hardcore numbers come out, to see if 18% is real.
So that was
because I was on the ground a lot.
But here's the thing. But here's the
that,
thing, though.
In that election, and I don't believe the number.
Here's the thing, though. That was a piece that was in the Wall Street Journal, where the point was made that for a lot of those black women, they voted for DeSantis on the issue of school choice. And so you have about 100,000 people who are in the Opportunity Scholarship program there in Florida. About 80 or 85% are black and brown. And so that group, I was in the meeting, because also, just folks know, we do our show here with 50 Cans, Education Reform Group. I'm the board of directors, and so we actually do our show from this office. We actually, pay rent here as well. And so we were in our meeting, and one of the things we talked about was that that group, they had very targeted advertising talking about Andrew Gillum's position on that Opportunity Scholarship and charter schools and school choice compared to Ron DeSantis, and they were aggressively targeting them. I also, in talking to some of those folks, said the Gillum people saw the evidence that it was making a difference, and sort of asked them to pull back because they saw that they had erosion there as well. And so that 18% could explain that.
It could, but I'm going to stay in the jury box of let me get a little more evidence, because sometimes exit polls, as we all know, cannot be correct. And so based on all of what I saw and engaged in, really we were down in Florida for really all year, year round. And so I want to wait to see that number. But I will say that, as you were pointing out, the results of our Election Day exit poll, what we do know for sure is when it came down to that ballot initiative around Amendment 4, especially, that we know it had a major influence. So the issues around voting rights and issues around criminal justice reform, those kinds of issues were very much what I heard when I went into communities and knocking on doors. I didn't hear a lot of people even talking about education. Not saying that it's not important, and it may be based on where we're working.
But also remember,
that was not what came out in the conversations, in the town hall meetings, in the places that I was involved.
But that was
But
here's the piece. That was the conversation, though. What we do know is that when you look at the balloting, there were a number of people who voted, let's say, in the Bill Nelson race who didn't vote in the Andrew Gillum race. And then, of course, you had a much higher number of people who voted for the ballot initiative.
Yeah, more people voted for the ballot initiative than anything. And then
so people could have voted for the ballot initiative and skipped the other two races.
Well, the other part of that being, and I'm a native Floridian from, the great big city of Mims, Florida, and understanding that when it came down to the Amendment 4, as you well know, Roland, you supported, this was a work that a labor of love with Desmond and Sheena and everybody down there who really had been working on this for a very, very long time. And so people were that's why you were able to build that bipartisan relationship. But it also said that people who voted, and this is something that as we get to go a little deeper, have to get a better understanding on this. Okay, if you voted for Amendment 4 and Gillum supported Amendment 4 and the other, Scott for Senate and DeSantis didn't, but you voted for that, but you voted for the people who didn't support it. So there's more that has to be done and delve deeper.
Look, here's the piece. People vote for different reasons.
Exactly.
Folks have different interests. And the reason I'm making the point about, again, when you saw the 18% and you saw Gillum lose about 31%, look, it is a lesson. It is a lesson to Democrats who run and who might be strong school choice voices against, because you have to understand, people vote for various reasons.
For various reasons,
and if you have black women out there, black mothers and black fathers who are saying, yo, the most important thing is education to my kids, they might say, I'm a single issue voter. I'm just saying that I think if you're a Democrat, you better really study what happened in Florida, because that could be an impact somewhere else
Right.
because it comes to those issues. What else jumped out in the exit polling?
What jumped out is issues around quality of life. Number one issue, one of the number one issues was affordable health care, right? Concerned about affordable health care being protected, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And Roland, what was interesting, as we delved in, we had a lot of good numbers with Gen Z, Gen X, as well as older, middle and older voters, black women voters, and those still were the key issues for black women. And so that's for us as we work to get ready for 2019 and 2020, because one of the things people said, well, the only thing people were voting for was going to be on health care. No, it was other kinds of concerns as well. And when you delve deeper in the state, like you talked about Florida, in Georgia, one of the things that we do have deeper numbers that we didn't put out yet. But in Georgia, with the voting rights, so people are paying attention to issues, but it all gets down to quality of life issues, economics, and justice. Like if I had to kind of put them in two big buckets, economic issues and social justice issues stood out. And Roland, remember, we released our poll that we do with Essence in September. Many of these issues were very, very similar as well. And there was a different kind of audience. This was the audience with Essence were higher income black women. These were women who were middle to lower income who were showing up at the polls and filling out this exit poll. So it gave us, and then being able to be in many other places in the Midwest, in the South primarily, it gave us a lot of good information as we go into dealing with the 116th Congress. When your first segment talked about criminal justice and the issue around that criminal justice reform and how important that is to black women. So we know as Black Women's Roundtable, it would be one of our key issues along with other kinds of justice issues and economic justice
Bringing our
issues.
panelists, Pastor Shannon Wright, third vice chair, Maryland GOP, also Malik Abdul, Republican communications consultant. Shannon, I'll start with you. When you look at these numbers, first of all, again, black women, a huge political force in terms of how they vote. The Republican Party does have a problem because, again, I was in a meeting, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, with Reince Priebus, his top leadership, and Tara Wall was there, and she said to me, she says, look, black women hate us more than anybody else. There's no other group that votes against the Republican Party more than black women.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but in Maryland, we had a similar circumstance. Governor Hogan was the first governor to win re-election in a long time. The issue that he won because of was school choice. Folks said, look, regardless of what y'all want to do with everything else, we need some good schools for our kids. And that was the issue that really made the difference for him. Regardless to how folks feel about parties, they always feel their children are a higher priority. So whoever is going to look out for the interest of those children with specific regards to education is going to get their support.
Malik, again, when you start breaking down what happens, and so you might have a criminal justice initiative, but you also have a school issue, then you might have a healthcare issue. What it also says to politicians, don't think you can come talk to black people, specifically black women, and only discuss one thing.
Yeah. I mean, you
better have a diverse agenda.
Yeah, one of the first things you said on the show, the first time I was on the show, you talked about local politics mattering. And local politics really do matter. I was concerned, I questioned whether or not the strategy in Florida, being so forward with Gillum, with, calling DeSantis a racist, I actually questioned whether or not that was going to work. If you look at the numbers, I think Gillum got 1% more than what was that? Chrysler, the Democrat in the
Charlie
2014.
Charlie Crist.
Yeah, Charlie Crist. I think Gillum got only 1% more. And if you look at DeSantis ended up getting more. Now, I know we're kind of trying to figure out what the numbers are.
No, here's the deal. First of all,
he got more of the DeSantis got more of the black vote than did Scott.
Well, you had a couple things also happened in Florida. First of all, you had significant turnout in red counties, voting 70% plus, high 60s. What you had is, again, we showed on the show the Tallahassee Democrat chart. You had to go down probably 13 or 14 to find a blue county. And then Miami-Dade County, which Gillum was banking on to actually win, only turned out 54%.
Yeah,
If Miami-Dade turns out 65, 70%, Gillum wins running away. So it's two things. So you have if you're a Republican like DeSantis, you have high turnout in your areas, and then you have lower turnout in areas. If you're a Democrat, you're banking on. Bottom line is you're going to lose because the high turnout areas are going to make up for more populous counties not turning out.
Yeah, and I think you're so right about, when you're going back again to, Democrats making, and I'll take that back, not just Democrats, political parties in general take for granted the black vote. But particularly with the Democrats, you can't believe that, your I won't even call them identity politics, but whatever your respective groups are, that you can rely on those groups to take you over the hump. That's not always the case because there are things, we're here in Washington, D.C., and there are a lot of people here who would love for their child, instead of, as great as the school may be for some, they would want their opportunity to allow their child to get a scholarship to go to a national cathedral instead of finish out their years at Ballou or any of the other schools in the area. Those are opportunities there, and it's kind of Democrats need to pay attention to those things and not assume that blacks are just so anti-school choice.
Yeah.
Melanie,
and I
go ahead.
With a mother who was a public school teacher, in Florida,
Congratulations.
right? And I think I came out okay, right? I hope so, right?
You did.
I didn't hear education in the places that we were in, and I was all over the state, and we worked all year. I'm not saying it wasn't an issue, because there are a lot of people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, who are working together to do reform in Florida. Our organization in Florida is very much actively engaged in that with Solange Benton. So people are looking for, we know that's that issue. I will say, though, when it comes to Andrew Gillum, because Andrew didn't have the resources that are coming into the primary, and I'm not, he can speak for himself, but I think it did cripple him in being able to do all that he could have done had he had the ability to have a stronger campaign in the primaries. Yes, it got him through the primaries, but he didn't have the resources to fully build out a campaign.
First,
fact.
But look,
right? He didn't have the money.
But also let's break this thing down. First of all, the Florida primary was in August. Okay, there are very few places where you have a primary in August
that's a good
and a
point.
general election in November.
Yeah.
And so whether you're Republican or Democrat, the problem is, you end that I think that primary was like August 28th.
Yeah, it was
so basically so all
in March on Washington.
so all you really have is about 68 days
between
to actually run. But again, though, I think the lesson of this exit poll is that people need to, by studying it, understand it's not single issue,
right?
And also understand that in tight races, 20 or 30,000 here, 10,000 here, over here can make a difference between whether or not you win or lose. Melanie, final comment before we go to the next story.
I did want to point, you said something about the race issue. That wasn't something that folks went to. It came to folks, right? And it wasn't something, when I was in small towns, like the town that I'm in and other places, people weren't looking for that, including even Andrew. He wasn't looking for that as a wedge issue. The candidate who won brought that issue.
But I actually think
two folks, and in this climate, racism and hate crimes is like high on the list for concern for black women.
Right.
So you cannot ignore when people are doing those kind of dog whistle politics when it comes to race. It's not that you bear down on it, but you have to push back against it.
But I just want to say,
because we're seeing things that are happening, and we've been seeing these things happening, especially over these last 2 years. Just the reality of what's happening with people being impacted by racism and all the kind of violence that's taking place in this country. You cannot be silent about things like that because it affects people's lives.
Just very quickly, I think there's a study on how to run in a race like that. If you look at Gillum, Abrams, and Espy, totally different in how they chose to run. Abrams and Espy were much less hesitant to be as forceful as Gillum was in running against that
Here's
race.
the bottom line, all three lost. So at the end of the day, you can sit here and nitpick what happened. All three lost. All right, folks, we go to what happened today at the Oval Office. There was a reality show competition taking place there where Donald Trump versus Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They wanted it to be a private conversation. Donald Trump said, no, Bring the cameras in. I want to be public. He might be regretting that decision. Press play.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to meet with you so that we can work together in a bipartisan way to meet the needs of the American people. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House, a Trump shutdown. You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives, you have the votes. You should pass it.
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House,
and we don't
you
have.
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but
today.
I can't. Excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The
And-
House we can get passed very easily,
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote,
No,
and
no, that's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
point, Mr. President. The point is that there are equities to be weighed, and we're here to have a conversation in a
Correct.
prayerful way. So I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. But the fact is, the House Republicans could bring up this bill if they had the votes immediately and set the tone for what you want.
If we thought we were going to get it passed in the Senate, Nancy, we would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House.
No, that's
We
not
would
the
get
point.
it, Nancy, I'd have it passed in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter, though, because we can't get it passed in the Senate because we need 10 Democrat votes.
Well,
That's the problem.
again, let us have our conversation, and then we
That's
can
right.
meet with the press again. But the fact is that legislating, which is what we do,
Right.
you begin, you make your point, you state your case. That's what the House Republicans could do if they had the votes. But there are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
Exactly right. You don't have
If I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one session.
Well, then
It would
go
be
do
done.
it. Go do it.
It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in
No,
the
don't
Senate.
put it on the Senate. Put it on,
course.
put it on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans.
You will not win.
It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote
Don't put
of
it
the
on
Senate. I need
Mr.
10
President.
senators. That's
Mr.
the problem.
President, you have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the
you
White House. The White
of
House is done,
Representatives.
and the House would give me the vote if I wanted it, but I can't because
Well,
I
you
need,
can't-
Nancy, I
you
need 10
can't.
votes from Chuck.
Now,
All right, let me
Mr.
say
President,
something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need
Well, let's
border
take the
security.
vote, we'll
Nancy,
find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security.
do.
People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important. Chuck, did you want to say
Yeah,
something?
here's what I want to say. We have a lot of disagreements here. The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall,
Washington Post.
whether it's effective or whatever. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You have called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government,
You don't
because
wanna
let me
shut
just
down the
finish,
government, Chuck.
because you can't get
The
your
last
way.
time you shut it down, you
yeah,
got
let me
killed.
say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take
And
it.
if it's not good border security, I
It
won't
is
take it.
very good border
And if it's not
security.
good border
That's what the
security,
border
I won't
security
take it.
asks for.
It's what the
Because when
board-
you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
you
with our
just said it is
military-
effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
Without
effective.
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We wanna do
Where
this-
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective.
We-
Where you don't have
Wait a
walls,
second.
it
Let's
is not
call a halt
effective.
to this.
Yeah.
Let's call a halt to this. We've come in here as the first branch of government, the Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
Open.
We're going to keep it open if we have border
the
security.
American-
If we don't have border security,
I'm
Chuck,
with you.
we're not going to keep it
I'm
open.
with you. We are going to have border security.
And it's the same border. You're bragging about what has been done.
By us.
We want to do the same thing we did last year, this year. That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a
But that's
much
it.
bigger
Let's
section with
debate.
more money.
Let's debate in private. Okay? Yeah. Let's debate in private.
That is devoid, frankly, of fact, and we can.
We need
dispel
border
that.
security. I think we all agree that we need border security.
Yes,
Is that
we
right?
do.
Good.
We do.
See? We get along. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, you say border security and the wall. Can you have border security without the wall?
You need the wall. The
Security.
wall is a part of border
Defining
security.
what it means to have border security.
Yeah, we need border security. The wall is a part of border security. You can't have very good border security without the wall. No.
That's simply not true.
Just
That
kidding.
is a political promise. Border security is a way to effectively honor our
And
responsibility.
the experts say you can do border security without a wall, which is wasteful and doesn't solve the problem.
It totally solves the
But I don't
problem.
want to take this.
And it's very
Unfortunately,
important.
this has spiraled downward when we came at a place to say, how do we meet the needs of American people who have needs? The economy has, people are losing their jobs, the market's in a mood. Our members are already
Well,
left
we have the
their homes.
lowest unemployment that we've had in 50 years.
60 people of the Republican Party are losing their offices now because of the transition. People are not, the morale
And we've gained
is
in the
not-
Senate. Nancy,
the
we've
morale
gained in the Senate. Excuse me,
Now-
did we win the Senate?
is
We
not
won the
in
Senate.
When the president brags that he won North Dakota and Indiana, he's in real trouble.
When
I did.
Let me say this.
We did win
Let me say this.
North Dakota
This
and
is the
Indiana.
most unfortunate thing. We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's
but
called transparency.
I know it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without.
You know
saying
what?
to the
We need
public,
border security.
this
That's
isn't
what we're going to be
true.
talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. This country needs border security.
We
The
agree
wall
with
is a
that.
part of border security. Let's have a talk. We're going to get the wall built, and we've done a lot of wall already.
How big a part of border security is the wall? Is
It's a
that
big
essential?
section. It's a big part of
Is
it.
it everything that you need?
It's a big part of it. We need to have effective border security. We need a wall in certain
enough
parts.
of
No,
him.
not at
Okay,
all.
take the audio out of my ear, please. After the meeting, Nancy Pelosi talked to her Democratic caucus and reportedly said, quote, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him, this wall thing. She also said, of course, outside, she said, we didn't want to say in front of those people, you don't know what you're talking about. Malik,
I thought the entire performance was shameful.
now again, the Democrats did not want the press in there.
What
Trump said, no, bring the cameras in.
Based on the clips that you just showed, what I heard Nancy say at the beginning of that clip, she started down the road of it being a Trump shutdown. She knows, you know how to bait Donald Trump. If you want to bait Donald Trump, then those are the you can throw those type of insults. He's going to take.
No, and he said it. He said, I will take the mantle of shutting it down.
But I say this because I'm consistent. I will consistently say that I think that regardless of how you feel about a president or whoever, I respect the office of the presidency. And so what I saw from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they were performing for the camera. I get it. Democrats, it made for great TV, it made for great Twitter moments, but I thought it was a really shameful presentation that they gave sitting there, being extremely disrespectful of the office.
Hold on. Stop. Wait. How are they? No. Wait a minute. How are they disrespectful for the office when they do? What you mean? If Trump says something and it's not true, what are you supposed to do? Sit there and go, be like Mike Pence?
You could do a lot of things, but what I do know is that if Republicans, if Nancy and Chuck were Republicans and they were sitting there in front of Barack Obama conducting the meeting like that, I would have a serious problems with
Malik, we're talking about the same Republican Party who got pissed. Malik, wait. This is the same Republican Party who got pissed at John Boehner simply for going over and meeting with him. John Boehner said he had to sneak into the White House because Republicans would jack him up when he met with Obama. Melody, your thoughts on today's meeting discussion?
It's time for everybody to go home, right? But looking at that, I saw Nancy Pelosi really trying to mediate what I saw as a boy fight going on or something between two people. I felt she was trying to bring it back, and at the end of the day, that the president should have had that meeting in a proper fashion, because when you bring the cameras in, you are not having a meeting. You normally bring the cameras in so you can tell people what happened, and so you can have an honest dialogue. So I think the whole thing was a showcase by allowing the press to come in, knowing that you have to get down to some serious business, handle the people's business. It's not about that wasn't transparency that was there.
But here's the other piece, Shannon.
Showing I'm the biggest and the baddest, and it stops.
But Shannon, here's the other piece. He doesn't have the Republican votes. He doesn't. That's why she said, dude, you don't have them. Oh, I can get them in a second. He doesn't have them.
So here's the thing. He's the president. He campaigned on building that wall. Regardless of...
Hold on, factually correct. He campaigned on Mexico paying for the wall, not American taxpayers.
So anyway, as I was saying, he campaigned on getting that wall built. Now, he's trying to stick to that. I get it. He's trying to apparently try and have a little bit of transparency, having the cameras there. Now, however, you will not get the honest responses in front of the cameras that you'll get behind the responses. If you are in any kind of board or political board, you understand that there are times when you go into executive session and you tell everybody, get out, so that you can handle what you need to handle. However, there are certain times when you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If they'd gone just behind closed doors, then everyone would have had their own spin on what really happened behind those closed doors when they all came out those doors.
Well, here's a tweet. Here's a tweet.
Well, you come out together and talk about what happened.
Yeah.
First of all, I rarely. Hold on one second. I rarely. You will rarely see me quote Ann Coulter on anything. But here we go to my iPad. This is what she tweeted. Even a Washington Post reporter knows that not 1 inch of Trump's wall has been built. Does Trump think his supporters are dumber than a Washington Post reporter? Yeah, he does. He thinks that. You know, and the thing here is very simple.
You haven't spent the money.
Trump kept saying Mexico's going to pay for this wall. American taxpayers like, all right, cool, dude. Why in the hell are we going to pay for it? Why in the hell should we pay for it? Not only that, you can't actually build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border.
And that's why
you just cannot.
That's why I think the entire conversation, at least in there, it was around the issue period, it's a bit disingenuous, because everybody knows, when they say, we're kind of stuck on a wall. So we're stuck on this word.
But that's where he is.
But I'm pretty confident that Trump does not believe that you can build a wall across the entire U.S. border. Okay. There may be people, and there may be some of his supporters who believe that.
So why is Trump then?
It's symbolic.
So why is Trump then threatening, if I don't get the money for the wall, I will shut the government down?
It's symbolic. If you remember where it started, I think it was last year, it was $25 billion. So they went down from $25 billion to $1 billion, and that's what's in there now. What Chuck Schumer is saying, well, you got the same thing that you got last year. Trump is asking for $5 billion. So we went from 25 to 1. He's asking for 5. They can make sure they can negotiate.
I say give him 100,000. I say
just put milk crates around.
Yeah, what the hell? I say give him 100,000. That's all you got to do. I want to talk about this here. John Kelly, of course, is going to be leaving as White House Chief of Staff. And, of course, all these folks have been talking about him and praising him and talking about him being, of course, losing his son, being a Gold Star family, 4-star general. And Kellyanne Conway blasted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she called John Kelly that he exhibited cowardice by not apologizing to Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. Well, this morning, of course, on The View, Meghan McCain took exception to the audience clapping on that, and I don't understand why Meghan was upset, because the reality is this here. He is a coward for not apologizing. This is what John Kelly did when he went to the White House podium in October of 2017.
In October, April rather, of 2015, I was still on active duty, and I went to the dedication of the new FBI field office in Miami. And it was dedicated to 2 men who were killed in a firefight in Miami against drug traffickers in 1986. A guy by the name of Grogan in Duke. Jim Comey did an absolutely brilliant memorial speech to those fallen men and to all of the men and women of the FBI who serve our country so well and law enforcement so well. There were family members there. Some of the children that were there were only 3 or 4 years old when their dads were killed on that street in Miami-Dade. 3 of the men that survived the fight were there and gave a rendition of how brave those men were and how they gave their lives. And a congresswoman stood up, and in the long tradition of empty barrels making the most noise, stood up there and all of that and talked about how she was instrumental in getting the funding for that building and how she took care of her constituents because she got the money, and she just called up President Obama, and on that phone call he gave the money, the $20 million to build the building. And she sat down, and we were stunned that she'd done it. Even for someone that is that empty a barrel, we were stunned. But you know, none of us went to the press and criticized. None of us stood up and were appalled. We just said, okay, fine. So I still hope, as you write your stories, and I appeal to America, that let's not let this maybe last thing that's held sacred in our society, a young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred. But it eroded a great deal yesterday by the selfish behavior of a member of Congress.
Everything that he just said was a flat-out lie. Congresswoman Wilson did fight for that funding. This is what she told the Miami Herald, quote, "I think he made it very clear when he was asked by the media over and over, and he said that he would never apologize. I think my concern was when he attempted to slander me and to impugn my integrity as a sitting member of Congress when he went to the White House briefing room and actually spoke about it to the American people." She continued, "I've received death threats and I've received nooses through the mail. However, I have received so much support in the American people. I've received so much support in the military families, and so has the family of LaDavid Johnson. Maybe some people in America knew who Frederica was 2 years ago, but 90% of the people know who Frederica Wilson is now." Malik, John Kelly owes her an apology.
No, he doesn't.
Why?
No, he doesn't.
Why?
You know, first of all, the Congresswoman, she should have a seat. You know,
why?
She is the same woman who actually talked about a conversation that the President of the United States had.
No, stop. Let's stay on this topic.
We can stay on this.
What he said, Malik, wait a minute, Malik. What he said is a lie.
Okay.
It's 100% lie.
But
no,
he's
it's
not
not.
gonna apologize
No, but
for
it's
it.
not maybe. Shannon, should he?
But he's not going to apologize for it.
Shannon, the chief of staff to the President of the United States, went to the
Politicians
podium.
don't
Went to the
apologize for
podium.
the things
Actually,
they say
they do.
about Trump.
Went to the. He went to the podium. 1 second. He went to the podium in the White House press briefing room and lied on a member of Congress and said something that she didn't do when in fact she did.
Okay, so I got a couple questions on that. I understand the concept that folks think that she is owed an apology. But when you look at a lot of the things and a lot of the way people behave, there's a lot of folks that are owed apologies, and they don't get them.
Okay, I'm asking you a question. Should the chief of staff apologize to this sister, a member of Congress? Go ahead.
If there are some apologies, they should be mutual. Because there was a lot of stuff that was done and said that was very disrespectful on both sides. So if there's apologies, they should be mutual.
Okay, how did she disrespect John Kelly?
Do you remember all of the stories and all of the concept and all of this, that, and the other that was going back and forth between all of them?
No. Hold on. I'm not asking for a general statement. I want to know specifically how did Congresswoman Frederica Wilson disrespect John Kelly?
What I'm saying to you, Roland, is that the situation, the way it was handled, was disrespectful on both sides. When you talk about how, well, nobody knew me before, but they know me now, and the comments out there about how, well, that's just made, my 15 minutes, none of that's respectful on any
no, hold up. I'm going to ask the question again, and I actually need to see the evidence of what you're saying. How did Frederica Wilson disrespect John Kelly before John Kelly went to the podium and lied?
Okay. You did ask it that way, so let me correct that. She didn't disrespect him. She disrespected herself and the office that she holds.
How?
By the way that she commented. First of all, why are you talking about yourself in the third person? If you are the humble public servant that you claim to be, there's
Her
certain
comment
things
is after the
question
fact.
and I'm answering
Her
it.
comment is after the fact. What I'm saying is, how did Congresswoman Frederica Wilson disrespect John Kelly, which caused him to come to the podium and flat out, undeniably lie?
Okay. Now, as I was saying,
because the reality about what we just
I just want some evidence.
When you have someone, I don't care what party you're in, walk up to in that White House, which is the people's house, and go to that level of detail on a lie, that is not acceptable. The Congresswoman is a big girl. She can take care of herself. But as a black woman in this country, I'm sick and tired of that White House thinking it is okay to disrespect black women.
But
Hold
what does that
up.
have to do with race and
Hold
gender?
up.
What does that have to do with race and gender?
I didn't interrupt you. I did not interrupt you.
You're right.
I listened.
You're right.
I'm giving my opinion. I respect yours.
Okay, go ahead.
But as a black woman, I say that we have to challenge that White House when you think about what continues to happen. And every time it goes public with something like this, when it talks about a black woman, it's an empty barrel. Or, the way he talked about, the president talked about Rachel. It's like, come on. In this United States of America, black women are sick and tired of being disrespected. Many, I'm not saying all, some people are okay with that, and I'm saying nobody on this table, I'm assuming everybody wants to be respected in this room. So I'm not pointing at any of us. But we cannot allow anybody, I don't care if it's, I challenge Democrats, I challenge Republicans and independents. You're going to respect black women, and someone who was the highest level he was in the military, to walk up to that camera and just break down a lie. Storytelling is a powerful, powerful impact. So if you can sit there and give that level of detail and you know it's a lie, come on now. Our children are watching. And to see how
and what the little lie?
Our children.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Our children
have watched some things over the past 2 years.
But here's the deal, though. We have...
And just the fact that we can get on television and just call people liars.
But the other thing is this here.
Two and a half years ago, we wouldn't even use the word on television.
Actually, I did.
Yeah.
But here's I did. I always call a lie. I call a damn lie.
Right.
The biggest problem for me is we got video. I mean, we got video. And it is arrogant. It is arrogant. And not only that, he's serving a president who has demanded other folks apologize to him.
Hey,
and some have.
I'm not arguing that point. We can say, sure, if Kelly wants to apologize, yeah, sure, he should apologize. But I don't care that he does not apologize to Frederica Wilson.
I do.
I don't think it's an issue of black women. Donald Trump ran against someone that he called Lying Ted.
Okay.
So the idea that he doesn't talk,
but he doesn't describe. He continues to describe black women, in derogatory terms.
Did you hear
and
what
that
he
is
said
a
about
reality.
Ted Cruz's wife?
Shannon, go ahead.
Ted Cruz was stupid enough to bring him down there. Okay, he won.
Shannon, go ahead.
I'm talking about
Shannon, go ahead.
It is not just a black woman issue. If you listen to some of the things that come, don't agree yet. It's not just a black woman issue. It's a gender issue across the board with our president. So let's be real clear about that.
Yeah.
It's not just black women. It's
I'm
women.
not saying it's not just, but I'm speaking for sisters right now.
So I hear you. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, there are some mutual apologies that should have been going on. There used to be a time when people had a certain amount of self-respect, dignity, and decorum for the office that they held. We have devolved. Like, there are so many things that people say and do that 10, 15, 20 years ago would have been unacceptable. I don't care whose party you in if you were Mickey Mouse.
4 years ago.
It's just, we no longer...
2 years, 2.5 years ago.
2 years.
No longer ago than that, because during President Obama's administration, people started getting
had
disrespectful. Okay, so I'm not saying about party.
White House, I'm not saying it was a perfect party.
No, I'm saying the way that people even came at President Obama was unacceptable.
Shannon, you're absolutely right. And look, first of all, I can tell you folks, when I was on CNN, and then I would sit there, people would say Barack, and I would go, I'm sorry, he's President Obama. I said this at ABC this week. I was raised to respect the office of the president. One of the reasons you've never heard me call Donald Trump President Donald Trump, because he doesn't respect the office of president. He doesn't. how he acts, how he talks to people, how he trashes people on Twitter, how he publicly demeans people. If you want respect, you have to show respect, and you have to give respect. The issue here for me is very simple. John Kelly, he can be a 4-star Marine. He can be a Gold Star family member. He can have years of public service. But what he did was lie. He lied on a member of Congress before the American people. He stood at the podium where the press secretary normally stands to speak to the American people. The most decent thing to do is to pick the phone up and say, Congresswoman, my apologies. What I said about you was wrong. How I blasted you was wrong. That's it. But you got to remember, this is the same White House who had a senior official joke about John McCain saying, oh, he's dying anyway. And that person called Meghan McCain and said she was going to apologize and never did. See, that's how the Trump White House works. And that is, they demand apologies from other people. And what they do is, they don't do it themselves. This is very simple, John Kelly. Pick a phone up. Because what you did was wrong. You lied. It's different if you say something in a private meeting, but it's a lot different when you stand in front of the cameras in this country. And not only that, it's very rare for the White House Chief of Staff to even go to the podium in the White House press briefing room. In fact, I can't remember the times when Obama's Chief of Staff, in 8 years, addressed the public. He chose to. And that's the difference, I believe, in this case right here. All right, here's a word from one of our partners, folks, and we certainly appreciate them supporting our show. We want you to write this website down, marijuanastock.org, marijuanastock.org. I'm going to tell you why. As we transition into the holiday season, this is the time when we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift that you can give someone is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in this country. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor of an opportunity. This, folks, is a no-brainer. But what Transatlantic Real Estate is doing is they have a business model that is simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to the licensed, high-paying tenants. So you'll be a landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. Now, you can invest anywhere from $300 up to $10,000 before the company chooses to go public. Now, here is some more good news. They have recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, what you must do is complete and confirm your application to participate. So be sure to complete the process. Don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, get a return on your investment. You can also consider making an investment for someone special. Call this your holiday gift or early gift. To get started, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. You can get in the game and do it now. All right, folks, here's an update on a story about a young woman in Tennessee, of course, who is being sitting in prison. She was first of all, Cyntoia Brown was 16 years old, of course, in 2004, when she killed real estate agent Johnny Allen. He took her as a sex slave by her pimp and boyfriend. Folks, she is serving 51 years before she's being eligible for parole. Now, today, the outgoing governor, Bill Haslam, says he will consider a pardoning her before he leaves office. And so we'll certainly keep you abreast of that particular case. Also, folks, he did the crime. Now he's going to do the time, a whole lot of time. James A. Field Jr., who is an avowed neo-Nazi, was sentenced to life in prison plus 419 years for the murder of Heather Heyer and injuries suffered by bystanders. Fields was at the Unite the rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, when he decided to ram his car into a crowd of counter-protesters. In fact, he drove from Florida to this rally. The jury was instructed that they could order that these sentences be served concurrently, but they didn't. So James A. Fields will die in prison. He's 21 years old, so he's going to have a long time to think about what he did to kill Heather Heyer. All right, folks, I do want to do so. I have Malik and I have Shannon here. I want to get their thoughts on this. So, Congresswoman Mia Love, she has been, she lost her race. She has been very outspoken about the Republican Party and how they treat women, but also how they treat minorities. And I've seen her all over the place. I've seen her on The View. I've seen her She's talked to the Washington Examiner. She was at, I think it was a Politico conference today. And so she was on the Ari Melber show. I mean, she's been all over the place. She ain't talked to no black media. Now, we've been trying to call her to get her on our show. We said, you can come. We can come by to the 6 o'clock. We'll pre-tape you. We can do a Skype. We can do a FaceTime. No luck. I've sent her people another email saying, look, she could do phone on the Tom Joyner Morning Show on my segment Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:15 Eastern, 7:24 Eastern. Okay? Still waiting to find out. Both of y'all are Republican. I'm just trying to understand. If you keep talking about how the Republican Party not reaching out to minorities, shouldn't you talk to black media?
You scary.
Yeah, well,
let's be real about it. You scary.
Hold up. If I'm scary, okay, here's the deal. Senator Tim Scott has talked to me. Michael Steele has talked to me. Congressman Will Hurd has talked to me. Alan West, when he was a congressman, he's talked to me. Bob Brown has talked to me. A whole slew of black conservatives talked to me at the Republican National Convention. Darrell Scott, he's talked to me. Then when he tried to jam him up for lying, said I call him an Uncle Tom, then he was like, okay, you know what? You're right, I ain't do that. So it's a whole list. Man, hold up. I just talk about the white conservatiors. Ben Carson sat me for a whole hour on the show. He's talked to me.
Wait, excuse me.
I ain't done. No. I thought another black person. Okay. Scott Walker, hold up. No, I'm going through at the convention. Scott Walker talked to a brother. I think Christie talked to him. I know Scott Walker did. We've had Congressman Tom Price, Congressman Bill Flores.
About other white
We've had,
conservatives,
again,
Dr. Carson,
I'm walking up. Wait a minute. Even that racist Steve King, Lindsey Graham. So all I'm saying is, if you me a love, you ain't got to be scared of a brother.
well, I don't even.
I'm gonna give you an opportunity to talk. But my point is, don't run out here talking to everybody else about Republicans and what they're not doing for minorities. You should be the first ones talking to black media.
Well, I take your point, but for me, even outside of media, I would have loved to hear the Congresswoman express these concerns before she lost. I think it probably would have been,
far more powerful.
Far more powerful.
So, just like when Senator Tim Scott, when the Wall Street Journal criticized him for voting against Thomas Farr, and his response was a column saying, well, don't send up judges with racial issues.
Right. So I would have, and not just with Mia Love, but, with people in general, I would love for you to, as you're a member of the party, you're inside the party, you have power, you have an apparatus to do things, bring these things to our attention. I understand that Utah probably is about maybe 2%.
I appreciate what you're saying, but that's incorrect. When you're a candidate running for office, and I'm speaking from experience on this one, you see which way the wind is going. You see how things are going, but you're not going to do what you think may help it to go that way faster.
Oh, no.
So you're not going to do
finish your point.
So you're not going to do or say certain things before the election. So I understand her not saying that publicly before the election. That would not have been a good political move for her. Well, it would have been a good media community feel-good kind of thing to see her come forward and say that. But it would have done her more harm than good before election day.
I'm not talking about the campaign. I'm talking about her entire time in Congress. I'm not specifically talking about this short period where she was running for re-election. I'm talking about during her time in Congress. And she may have those type of outreach opportunities that are somewhere for people to see, but I just wish she would have had those same sort of criticisms and conversations with the party before she started running for re-election.
But you don't
know that she didn't.
I get all of that.
And that's true.
I get all that.
We haven't heard it until now.
I get all that, but let me be real clear, Melody. Michael Steele was chairman of the Republican National Committee. Michael Steele came on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Not a problem. Every time I call, Michael was there. Had him on my show, Washington Watch, News One Now, always there. Radio show, not a problem. You can't be a black conservative and say what the party's not doing if you don't do it yourself.
Now that's a valid point.
Matter of fact, that's a mic drop. So we're just gonna go ahead and end the show on that one. We're just gonna go ahead and end the show on that one. So all I'm saying is, we are more than welcome. She is still a member of Congress until the next one is sworn in January. We are more than welcome to have Congressman Mia Love, again, physically here, on the phone, Skype, FaceTime, Google Duo. We'll use any other platforms made possible.
Go to the church is open.
But will
But
you play nice?
Huh?
Will you play nice?
Oh, I always play nice.
Roland.
No, Listen.
Hold up.
Listen.
Hold up.
Listen, I'm of an
If y'all, hold up.
But I heard
any of y'all watching,
you gave.
if any of y'all
Come on
watching,
now.
if you want to know if I play nice, first of all, this is real simple. I play nice with everybody. Don't lie. See, the moment you lie, see, Malik know his first time on the show. Malik know. Malik, tell the people what happened.
Quick step.
You made a mistake.
Yep.
And it was like, damn, I lied.
Yep.
And I got busted.
And I couldn't come from under it.
No. And then he's like, and what happened? You like, next time I come on,
I say, oh, this not gonna happen again.
you say it's gonna happen again. That's all. That's all.
Yeah.
You can ask your Michael Singleton. I'm gonna give everybody a shot. But if you lie,
I got you.
gotcha.
Who was the first name on your list of white conservatives?
Oh, Tom Price.
No. Who was the first name
I think he said that mistake,
on
didn't he?
your
No, I was about to go to the list of white conservatives.
Oh.
Then I went, damn, hold up. There was one more black person.
So that
No.
Freudian?
I'm gonna tell you, no, it wasn't.
Scary.
No, it's not what it was.
Scary.
I was about to name the white conservatives who come on. Then I went, hold up, it's one more black person.
Right.
So I went Carson, and then no, it was Tom
Freudian
Price.
slip, I understand.
No, it was Tom Price.
Right.
It was Pete, the guy Pete Olson.
Steve King.
It was the dude from Kansas who lost, Steve King, Lindsey Graham. It was also another white guy, Bill Flores. But he's Texas A&M Aggie, so it doesn't really count because I'm an Aggie. That's why also it helped to come on. But again, all I'm saying is this: it is real simple. Come talk to black people. That's all you gotta do. I ain't gonna bite. I put my hands behind my back. I give you a hug before we start. All I'm saying is, don't lie, or you're gonna get the Malik treatment. That's what it's called. You know, like when you go into a store and they give you like a certain massage. You know, like when they get like a certain treatment at the spa and they name it.
The Malik treatment.
If you come live, Roland Martin Unfiltered, you're gonna get the Malik treatment. It ain't gonna end too well for you. I'm just saying, it's gonna loosen you up though. All right, y'all. Don't forget, I want y'all to support Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you contribute certainly goes to making this show possible. We got some great things planned in 2019, but it can't happen without you. Also support our advertisers at marijuanastock.org. We certainly hope you support them as well. And then tomorrow, I'm gonna tell y'all about how y'all can get one of these pocket squares, because you know I'm always about having some creative pocket squares. And so I see Malik got the red, but see Malik, you need that's kind of boring.
I can get there.
You need something like this. So I'm explaining to y'all tomorrow how y'all can get one of my unique pocket squares. So we're gonna break that down for you as well. And so Melody, thanks so much. Malik, Sharon, thank you so very much. And Congresswoman Mia Love, brother waiting on you. I'll show you some love. Mia Love. Holla!